Hello and welcome to Emma's ESL English. Today we're talking about British meal times. I would not be surprised if you have been confused by British meal times. They can be confusing. So we're going to look at some of the different words that we use in the UK to talk about meal times. If you've ever watched Lord of the Rings, you might have noticed that the hobbits have an awful lot of meal times. This was Tolkien kind of poking fun at the British meal times. And some of the options, such as second breakfast, are specifically hobbity. But many of the others, including 11s, afternoon tea, dinner, and supper, are real. The tricky thing is that some words, especially dinner, tea, and supper, can mean different things in different households. For example, when my brother and I used to stay at my grandma's house over the summer holidays, meal times were really strict. Breakfast was at 7 a.m., dinner 12 p.m., tea 5 p.m. Sometimes, if there were visitors, there might be an afternoon tea at 3:30 or 4 p.m., depending on what time the visitors came. At my grandma's house, dinner is the hot meal in the middle of the day, and tea is the cold meal at the end of the day. And if you're still hungry before bed, you might have some cereal or toast for supper. In the UK, breakfast is quite different from a lot of other countries. Usually we have cereal or toast for breakfast. If you go to a hotel, you might find a full breakfast on the menu, which means sausage, bacon, beans, egg. In America, I think they also have a lot of cereal for breakfast. It's very common, cereal and toast for breakfast, but they do have some more exciting options like pancakes or smoothies that are pretty common. But the times that I told you for my grandma's house is quite different to my own home, where lunch was in the middle of the day and dinner or tea could be used for the evening meal. To me, as a kid, there definitely didn't seem any logic as to whether we were talking about dinner or tea, but I knew both of them meant the meal at the end of the day. Of course, I was infinitely confused when I went to my piano teacher's house and was told that supper would be served at 6. In her house, lunch happens at 12:30 and supper at 6 p.m. I never figured out what happens if you're hungry before bed. So the other three more snacky meals you might come across are morning coffee, which is also known as 11s. This might be tea or coffee and is usually a scone or a cake, maybe a biscuit or a packet of crisps. I will put a note about crisps in the blog. Scone can be a scone or a scone, but it depends where in the UK you live. Usually scone is the south of England, especially the southwest, and scone is the north of England. It's not quite as simple as that, but yeah. So then afternoon tea is usually somewhere between 2:30 and 4, and it's basically the same as 11s. However, in recent years, afternoon tea has evolved for sure. These days you can book an afternoon tea in a restaurant or a bar, and it's a pretty big meal actually. Tea, sandwiches, scones, cake. It might have something alcoholic like gin and tonic or even champagne. So it's kind of a big thing these days. It's very popular right now. Kind of expensive too, actually. Okay, one more for luck. Brunch. Brunch is usually for the weekend. You got up too late for breakfast, but it's still too early for lunch. So usually somewhere between 10:30 and 11ish. Brunch can be a big meal. In America, pancakes are common. In the UK, eggs Benedict is pretty common. Smoked salmon and avocado, pretty popular. And also bacon. In some cases, there may also be alcohol. Mimosas and Bloody Marys seem to be particularly common. So, basic things to remember. Breakfast pretty much stays the same first thing in the day. Supper in general means an extra snack before you go to bed, but sometimes it means your evening meal. Lunch can be lunch. It's sometimes dinner. Depends whose house you're in. And your evening meal can be tea, dinner, or supper. Again, depending on whose house you're in. It's pretty common, especially for people in the older generation, that dinner means it's going to be a hot meal, no matter which meal it is. Are you confused yet? It's really confusing. I get that it's really confusing. In fact, you don't even need to remember this. It's really just for your information and possibly for fun. Because it is kind of silly how many words we have for the same things. Anyway, I hope it's useful. I hope if you have a conversation with a British person, you can make out which meal they're talking about. If you have any questions about this or any other questions about English, please email them to me at emmaseslenglish@gmail.com. Or you can see all the things from today in the blog, which is at emmaseslenglish.com. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you next week. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you soon. Bye!